Here's another type of question which normally takes quite a bit of thought to get correct. It'll say something like this. For each question below, identify the appropriate option from A to E, A, B, C, D, E, that applies. Each option can be used once, more than once, or not at all. What that means is, for question number 1 here, it's only one of these answers. Okay? You only need to consider the because option if both assertion and reason are true. You'll notice the column here is called assertion. In other words, here's a statement I hold to be true, and here's the reason why we believe that statement to be true, with the because link in the middle. So 3 columns here. Let's deal with this slowly and carefully. If the left-hand side is true and the right-hand side is true, only then do you need to consider whether the because is true. Let me explain. If your answer was A, it would mean they're both true. But the right answer could be B, when they're both true, but the only difference between A and B is the because. If you said that Fred drinks a lot, it might be because they're thirsty, or they like the taste of Coca-Cola if that's what they're drinking. So both sides could be true, but it's only if the because is true that you'd give it an A. If either the left-hand side or the right-hand side or both is false, you don't need to consider thinking about the because. Now that alone should help you to deal with these questions much more quickly. Matt Bogard, the engineering manager, should be included in the communication management strategy document. Well, it's just an example, and because you haven't read the invented scenario that I have, you wouldn't know whether that was true or not. But let's imagine it's true, that the engineering manager should be involved in the communication aspects of the project. So I would actually put a small T here, or a check mark if you wish. Then I go to the other side. The communication management strategy describes the communication tools to be used. Well, this is a factual question, and the answer is yes, it does. So that would be a T as well. So if this was a real question, I've got a T here and a T there, meaning you've got to consider, is this the main reason why this statement here is being made? And if you believe yes, then the answer for that is option A. If you believe they're both true, but this has no bearing on that, then it would be B. Just thinking about that, because the communication management strategy includes communication tools, is not a reason why you should include the engineering manager within that particular document. So this would score a B in this case. The second question. The point in time when all the packing and dismantling has completed would be a good point to have a stage boundary. Again, you can't answer that here. It's just an example. But the answer is that was a key point, so it would be a reasonable choice. On the right-hand side, a stage boundary provides review and decision points and the ability to make decisions. This is a true statement as well. So because it's a true again, you have to consider whether it's an A or a B. And the answer is actually it's an A. Remember, if either side is false, one of them or both of them, then you need to consider a C, D or an E. Here's another type. It will usually start off with a description at the top. So normally you'll have a scene setting up here which you need to read and understand to help answer this type of question. Again, you've got 2 columns. For each risk response in column 1, select from column 2 the type of response it represents. Each option from column 2 can be used once, more than once, or not at all. So we need to go to question 1, read it carefully and say, is it A, is it B, is it C, and so on and so forth. Just a bit of technique here for you. Wait until the competition does bring out a similar promotion. Directly you see something that says wait until, you're almost certain to know that it's the fallback type of action. This used to be called contingency. In other words, only if something happens will we do something different. So that would be a C. Add extra resources to your project to bring the diary delivery date forward. Well, you're worried about the risk of a competitor bringing out a similar diary. So doing yours earlier will reduce the risk. Cancel the project, decide not to compete. Well, what you're doing here is deciding not even to join the game in, so this would be an avoid. Whenever you see a question that's something along the lines of record it in the risk register and monitor the situation, that's your do nothing, which means in this case accept. What I hope you're getting from this is getting used to the scan pattern. You need to read the information first, deal with each question in turn, make a decision, and then shade that in your answer sheet. Here's yet another style of question which you may come across. Now this type of question really can frighten people. The reason being is you're having to read the question, which I'm going to show you in a minute on the next slide, but from that come back to your additional information and read normally the layout of information with a particular management product description. In this case, it's the project product description. Again, you can get this template from Appendix A. And what they're showing you here is, and I've just shown you a couple of them as an example, the composition section of the project product description and the derivation section of the project product description. Now let me just swap back and forth a minute. Here is the question you'll actually get to do with this. Alright, stay with me here. So it says, using the project scenario and the additional information provided for this question in the scenario booklet, answer the following questions about the project product description. The first question says, which two statements apply to the composition section? In other words, this information, which is normally numbered for you to answer the question. And A says, the right answer could be amend entry 2 to selected photographic paper. Now, if all you did was to read this first, and then secondly, go and find the additional information, your brain would be getting confused. What I suggest you do is this, is that when you see a question like this, which is talking about amending or deleting a document that's shown in the additional information, do not even read or attempt the questions first. Just spend a few minutes looking at this with your head and mind clean, if you will, saying to yourself, for this project, in the project product description, which of this information would make sense to be included in the composition section? In other words, which of this is the composition of the end product? So read this first and just put a tick or a cross or a question mark very quickly against this. Just go with the flow. And if you thought, for example, that diary distribution didn't make sense here, put a question mark against it. And do the same quickly for the others. Can you see what I'm giving you here? You're thinking about the composition, you know what the end product is, and you're quickly saying which of these are sensible and which might be nonsense. And then, and only then, when you've done them all, should take you no more than 4 to 5 minutes, go and answer the question. So if A says amend entry 2 to selected photographic paper, you can now go back here, and if that was a case in point, if you've got a cross against it, you probably know that it's a true question, that indeed it should be amended. Get the idea? So I'm not going to go through this with you anymore, but you can understand how this will make more sense and you're more likely to come up with the right answer. Here's another one which you may come across, and it's a sequential type of question. Here you'll have a column with a number of actions, and over here are the sequence in which those actions should be undertaken. The only technique I can offer here is that since this is talking about issues, then go to the change theme, and you'll probably find a diagram there that shows the sequence in which this stuff should happen. And that might quickly allow you to see what the right sequence is. Now, whatever you do, if they do lay it out like this, don't go through all of these and think through each. You'll be wasting a lot of time. What I would suggest, using your pencil on the question paper itself, perhaps with the manual in front if you're not sure, put 1 or 2 or 3 here if you think that makes sense. That's the first one, or the second, or the third. And so in other words, answer the question here, and then look for which one will be right here, and then move on. And in case you're wondering, yes, the right answer is C. Prove it to yourself by going to the Prince manual now. Don't take my word for it. Okay, well done. You're already smarter than the average PRINCE2 exam candidate. I mean that in a positive sense, in that you've taken the time and care to think about the techniques you need for the exam itself. The best way to pass the PRINCE2 exam is to work hard and to understand the PRINCE2 method. As I said before, the examiner is not trying to trip you up. Merely set out a set of information to prove to them that you know enough to be called a PRINCE2 practitioner. So thank you for your attention. I hope you found this useful, and good luck in your studying and passing both your foundation and practitioner exams. And if you want to fully prepare, I recommend that you go on over to my PRINCE2 Foundation and Preparation site, www.prince2primer.com, and we'll meet again on the other side.